Hi, I'm Dolly Vasta, and welcome back once again to Dolly's World. I have a very special show for you today. It's slightly different from anything that I have ever done. I have a friend, a young lady, who I have known for a great many years, and she decided in her junior year of college to take a semester to go to sea, and that's what it was called, Semester at Sea. A very exciting time because they visited 9 countries in 4 months. I want you to meet her now. Emily Grad. Em, thank you for coming. I hope I got that one all right. Now tell me, what did you think when you saw that ship for the first time at port?
Well, the ship we left from Vancouver, British Columbia, so I was incredibly nervous. It just overwhelmed, I guess, by the people and by just the idea of actually going. And it had been in my plans for months and months, but to actually be at the port and see the ship and see the people I would be spending the semester with. And it was just very overwhelming. I was very nervous.
So the ship was like a floating university, really.
It was a floating. We lived and slept and ate, went to class. I mean, class was just a few hundred yards away, just up the stairs and to the other end of the ship. So it was basically our home for the 4 months while we were on the boat, the ship.
Okay, how many days were you at sea before you reached the first port?
We were on the ship probably almost 2 weeks before we got to Kobe, Japan. We had a course actually on ship that everybody was required to take, and it was called Global Studies. We had it every day, and that course prepared us for each country before we got to the country. So, before going to Japan, we had 2 weeks of Global Studies to prepare us for Japan. Its history, its culture, its art and architecture, its music, so on and so on.
All right, then first off, Japan.
Japan.
What stood out in your mind about Japan?
How similar it was to the United States. Actually, it felt like I was walking down the streets of New York, except everything was in Japanese, but the styles, just the big city feel, and the just really reminded me of New York, I guess.
Did you get a chance while you were there to get out in the countryside at all?
Yeah, I visited the Kobe. We docked into Kobe, and that's the city that kind of reminded me of New York. I visited 2 towns outside of Kobe called Nara and Kyoto, and these 2 towns were cities. They are famous for their temples and shrines, their Buddhist temples and Shinto shrines. So I got to see a lot of pagodas and toured a bunch of grounds, and it was amazing. I had never seen a pagoda or anything like that before.
What about the people themselves?
Incredibly hospitable. I would be walking down the street and be lost, and I would ask somebody in English. A lot of people spoke English, especially the younger students. Elementary students and high school students are required to take English classes. Mm-hmm. And so especially asking a younger student, a younger person, incredibly hospitable, and would actually take me to the place that I needed to go to, even if it was out of their way. It was,
really?
Yeah, it was really just very hospitable, very nice.
So where did you go then, moving on? Because we have so many countries and so many things to cover. Mm-hmm. Where did you go?
We went then to Hong Kong. We docked in Hong Kong. We were docked in Hong Kong for 5 days. I spent 1 day in Hong Kong. I did a city orientation tour, so just saw some cute key sites of Hong Kong, including Aberdeen, which is where the boat people live. Got to go out on a sampan, which is a kind of boat, and tour their neighborhood, I guess. Spent 1 day in Hong Kong, and then I flew up to Beijing. It was about a 3.5-hour flight to Beijing, and I was there for the rest of our stay. And that was incredible. That was definitely a highlight of my trip. It was my first big trip on the Semester at Sea. It was a trip arranged through the Semester at Sea. Semester at Sea, when we docked into countries, they offered numerous trips, or day trips and overnight trips, mm-hmm. that you could sign up for. And so this Beijing trip was through the semester at sea, and it was a joint program with a university in Beijing called Tsinghua University. So we met Tsinghua students, we socialized with them one night, and saw them for dinner another night. And Beijing was just a great experience. We got to see Tiananmen Square, the Forbidden City, and we also went to the Great Wall.
You have an amazing quote, though, about this, and I'm going to read it. And you said that you had taken lots of pictures, but I know they will be a poor reflection of the sheer size and stature of this amazing wonder of the world. It was truly wondrous. And then you went on to say that not all of the wall is open to the public.
No, they only open a small section of it, and it's crowded. I mean, the part where we entered was just mobbed with people. And I picked where we entered, you could go left or right, and I went to the left, and I actually got to the end of where the public was allowed to go, and as soon as I got to the end, there was just a drop off. The Great Wall isn't continuous anymore. It's broken apart, so they fixed up the section that they allowed people to walk on, and it's really nice. It's not broken. And
well, to make it short, and because your mother would probably kill me, you did have a couple of other adventures in Beijing. One we won't go into particularly, about a little piercing number, but the other is that you actually had the nerve to go into a beauty shop and have your hair cut. Whatever made you think that you could get them to understand what you wanted?
I didn't know I was going to get a haircut. I didn't know any. It was just a fun night. It was for $6. Me and my two friends went. We got this intense head massage and upper body massage, and two of us got our haircuts for $6 basically, and we were in the salon for maybe 2 hours. It was just such a fun night, and I could not communicate with the man who was cutting my hair. That there was no, I mean, just showing them the length or whatever. Kind of he understood, but it was funny. Still waiting for the hair to grow out, maybe.
Oh, we thought maybe you'd come home pink.
Oh, my friend got her hair dyed pink there too, so.
Well, then her mother had the delight of that. Okay, so now you have left Beijing, and where are you headed?
We left Hong Kong and went to Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam.
That must have been quite an experience.
Definitely quite an experience. I guess I didn't really know too much about the Vietnam War before going on this semester, and it was very, very interesting and very powerful to learn about the Vietnam War from our professors who grew up during the Vietnam War. And it was just an intense learning experience before we actually docked into Ho Chi Minh City. And it was interesting going into Ho Chi Minh City. It's actually located inland from the South China Sea, so we navigated up a river, which really reminded me of Apocalypse Now. I don't know if you've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just the lush greeneries and the silty rivers.
What was it that bothered you so about Vietnam? Now, I know there was a statement, and I believe it was about this, that you said many of your professors disagreed on explaining what happened at Vietnam.
It was hard for the professors to share their experiences and their feelings. It was very emotional. I just remember one global studies that was especially emotional. I would say that the ship as a whole was very, very liberal, especially the professors. It was interesting learning their perspectives and learning their recounts of history from such liberal professors in Vietnam and especially in Cuba. I know I had to take what they were saying with a grain of salt because they are just people with their own feelings. So, and they were pretty liberal. And
did you ever find yourself wondering who was right and who was wrong?
Totally, yeah, very much so. I mean, I feel like after this semester, I've learned so much about the people of just different countries, different cultures. I learned a lot about myself and the United States, and after this semester, I think I'm more confused about everything. I know more, but I'm more confused.
Well, that's pretty much growing up. You know more and know less at the same time,
Exactly.
I think. Okay, we have now left Vietnam.
Okay.
Where are we going?
We then went to Thailand.
Thailand.
We docked in Thailand.
Of which I know absolutely nothing about.
Very, that whole Indochina Peninsula is very interesting. Has a really long history, very violent history. So we docked in Thailand. I spent the day in Bangkok, and that night, the night we docked into Thailand, I flew to Myanmar.
What was there in Myanmar?
Myanmar, it was very, very controversial that we went to Myanmar. Myanmar has one of the most oppressive governments in the world, arguably the most oppressive government in the world. We were actually supposed to dock in Myanmar, but for 2 reasons we didn't. We went to Thailand instead. One was because the time we were going to Myanmar, the water level was too low in the harbor and our ship would have gotten stuck. But more importantly, the Office of Foreign Assets, the United States Office of Foreign Assets, controls what we can spend and where we can spend it, and they forbid U.S. companies to spend money, do business with the Myanmar government, so we could not dock in Myanmar.
Oh, so there are sanctions
Yeah.
against it. Was there anything else that impressed you at all about that?
Myanmar was one of the most powerful countries I visited. It's just a true representation that the government is not representative of the people. The people were just so warm and hospitable and just so full of life and color, and I think that's oftentimes forgotten when you're reading history books and learning about the government and learning about the terrible things that happen, and you forget about the people. And to be able to go to Myanmar, and where we went in Myanmar, about 20 of us in my group, we went to this place called Inle Lake, very removed and very far away from the cities, and just meeting the people and the indigenous groups, and it was just a very powerful experience. And it's just sights and people I met that will definitely last in my memory for a long time.
Did you ever wonder to yourself, God, I really have so much?
It's just amazing. I mean, yeah.
Okay, let's continue,
Okay.
because our half hour goes rather quickly. So continue on.
So after Thailand, we were on the ship for about a week, which was a nice break because before that we had been boom, 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 Vietnam, and then we went Hong Kong, Vietnam, and Thailand. And so it was nice to be on the ship for a week instead of just 2 days in between countries. So we after Thailand, we sailed to India. We docked in Chennai, India, in the southeastern part of India on the Indian Ocean, on the Bay of Bengal.
What did you think of India?
India was a very intense experience. They prepared us for the sights and the smells and just what they tried to prepare us, but I don't think any amount of hearing what we were going to see and smell and witness could really prepare us for what we did see, and it was a very humbling experience.
Well, they're a very poor. It's either a very poor country or a very wealthy country. There's no middle land in India, pretty much.
Yeah, there was a lot of poverty. There was a lot of poverty in all the countries we had been to. I spent one day in Chennai, and then I flew to New Delhi. I spent the most part of my time in India in the north. I went to New Delhi and Agra and saw the Taj Mahal. So my time in India was mostly at the Taj.
And not the one in Atlantic City.
No.
That's a real one too, wasn't it?
Yes.
It must have been pretty awesome, to use one of your own words, to look at this and say, I've seen pictures of it, but this is it.
I definitely felt that way with the Taj Mahal, especially. I'd seen pictures, was not really prepared for actually being there. It was a lot of traveling. We left at 4:30 in the morning and didn't actually get to the Taj Mahal until 6:30 that night. So we had been in transit that whole day. We were exhausted, just really tired, and actually, but at 6:30 walking through the gates and seeing the Taj Mahal, you just lost your breath and kind of renewed your energy. It was a really awesome
There you go.
sight.
See, that's why I say it. Okay, on to
Tanzania. After India, we sailed to Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Again, I only spent one day in Dar es Salaam, the capital of Tanzania, and then I went on a 4-day safari to the north of Tanzania.
Oh boy, tell me about that.
That was a really
Because
great time.
I hear you were almost charged by a big bull elephant, huh?
Yes, and an elephant. We were quiet. We were the only vehicle around this elephant. We hadn't even taken any pictures yet. We were just kind of watching it, and it was eating leaves off of a tree, and everything was quiet and calm and serene. And then all of a sudden, this elephant just kind of came to and started running at us and charging at us, and they're screaming, and we peeled out of there and we were saved. But it's fun to look back at now, that nothing had happened. But yes, we got charged by an elephant.
It was pretty spooky.
It was spooky, yes.
All right, let's move to Africa, South Africa. That's
South
where you went.
Africa.
And you seem very impressed by South Africa when I read your journal. So of all the places you had been, it seemed to be a lot of love that was written into that.
South Africa, I had a great time. We docked into Cape Town, and unlike the past few countries, I spent most of my time in the port city. I really liked Cape Town. I did a lot of stuff outside, and I think that's why I really enjoyed Cape Town. I climbed Table Mountain twice, 2 different days. Table Mountain is a huge mountain that sits just behind Cape Town and overlooks the entire bay. So I climbed Table Mountain twice, and I spent one day in the Cape of Good Hope. So I spent a lot of time outside and doing physical activity, so I really liked that.
All right, so we have now, where are we?
We're leaving Cape Town, and we're sailing across the Atlantic to Salvador, Brazil.
Wow.
That was a long stretch in between Salvador and Cape Town.
What was exciting about Brazil? I can remember reading wonderful stories about the music, and it's colorful and so on.
I took a Brazilian music class, and that really got me excited right when we had from our first class to get to Brazil. So I was really looking forward to getting to Brazil. I just love Brazilian music, and so I was very
great drum music. I hear you played the drums.
I did play the drums in my Brazilian music class. I was drumming and singing. It was great.
Oh, that's wonderful. So where did you go in Brazil?
Brazil, I went to a national park about 6 hours from Salvador to this area called Lençóis. It's a small town, and spent 3 days just hiking around, and there were natural water slides, which were so fun. The water just eroded this rock, and it was really soft, and you just slid down into pools, just natural pools of water, and jumping off cliffs and waterfalls. And it was beautiful. It was just utopian.
And what did you do there when you jumped, or when we went down one of the slides?
Well, the first day we went out, I actually fell, and that was my first jump. I was walking barefoot, and I slipped on some wet rock, and I just, bit it, and I was just sliding down this rock, and there were just scattered pools of water, and I just slid about 8 feet and then fell 8 feet down into this pool of water. And luckily the water was deep enough so I didn't get hurt, but that was my first experience. But the next day we hiked about 10 miles and just stopped periodically to swim, and it was great. I had a great time.
Did you meet other kids your own age?
Not in Brazil, but in other countries we met. It was nice being able to talk to other people, to people in the country, and in Myanmar and in China, Japan. We got to meet a bunch of great people, especially in Cuba. I guess that's where we're going next.
Is that where you're headed next? And we're almost at the end of your journey. And by the way, in between all this, you really did have studies. You had exams.
Yes, it was actually a semester of work. So coming back, people say, "Oh, how was your cruise?" It was a voyage. There were classes, there were midterms and papers and finals, and it was a semester. It was a semester. It was a different kind of semester, but definitely a semester.
A semester with perks.
Semester with perks, yes.
Yeah.
A few vacations in between classes.
Well, I understand though that, and you had, when we got the email from you, that you were not sure you were going to get into Cuba.
No, we were definitely, our ship was, I guess, compared to, it was like a pawn being played by the U.S. government and the Cuban government.
What else is new?
I didn't know much about the relationship between Cuba and the United States, and I learned a lot, and I think out of, all the countries, I'm most confused now about Cuba and where we stand.
Did you meet many of the people there?
Met a lot of the people. Because we were there on academic license, we spent a lot of time with the students of the University of Havana. So it was great because it was great just spending time with college students in Cuba, and it was a lot easier to meet people in Cuba because a lot of people on the ship spoke Spanish, and I can speak Spanish, so it was unlike other countries where there was a language barrier separating us.
You said that you had an invitation to hear Fidel Castro speak.
We heard Fidel Castro speak the last night we were in Cuba. It was, he spoke. We were supposed to be we were on the bus and waiting to leave. We were police escorted to the Palacio, the palace, and waited in the Palacio for a few hours, and finally we got into the room where we were going to hear Fidel, and waited there some more. There was a lot of waiting time, and so we were very, very anxious to actually see Fidel and hear Fidel. And finally he came out, and the crowd, I was just very in awe that I was seeing such a huge political figure in person. That has had such an effect, had such an influence on the U.S. government and around the world. He spoke for about 5 hours. 4 hours and 45 minutes, I'd say. He got on stage at 4 p.m. and was worried about making his 9 o'clock doctor's appointment. So he spoke for 4.5, 5 hours about range of topics, education and healthcare and.
Did he speak in English, or was there an interpreter?
He spoke in Spanish, and there was a simultaneous translation that we listened to.
Were you allowed to get up at all within that?
We did. 4.5 hours is a long time to just sit.
Yeah. It's been nice. It's been nice, Vi, but I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of wound up your trip, and then you flew from where?
Then we docked into Fort Lauderdale, so we sailed from Havana to Fort Lauderdale. It's only 90 miles away, or it's 90 miles to Florida. It's maybe a few longer to Fort Lauderdale, but we could have made it. We could have made the trip from Havana to Fort Lauderdale in a few hours overnight, but we literally had to stop in the middle of the ocean to. We weren't allowed to stay as long as we could have in Havana, so there was some time in between Havana and Florida where we were just kind of hanging out in the Caribbean.
Time. Yeah. Now, I know there are parents and young people, hopefully, who will be watching this, who will say, gee, how could I go on one of these? And you did it through the University of Pittsburgh, right?
Yes, Semester at Sea is run through the University of Pittsburgh.
And you just apply.
Just apply. There's a short essay you have to write, and transcripts and references, but it's an easy application process, and definitely worth that effort of the application. It was just the most amazing 100 days. It was kind of different because we didn't stay in one country and become immersed in cultures, but instead got tastes and samples of different cultures. So it's very exciting for me to have gone to these 9 countries and think, oh wow, I really want to come back here at some point in my life. So, but it's not as hard as you would think of it to go on this program. There are scholarships available.
There's all kinds of means.
There's all, it's possible.
And it really was a journey of discovery for you.
It was, I learned a lot.
What did you learn about Emily Grad?
I learned that I like to travel, that I like to meet people. I learned that I feel this sense of independence and self-confidence after having gone that somehow I had lost in the past year and a half in college, and I learned about who I want to be and what I want to do.
Love, I know that you have spent a lot of time with us here today, and I thank you for coming. But your emails meant so much to all of us who read them, and I kept seeing this wonderful young lady who has always been a wonderful young lady to me, but really discover who she was and emerge, and your remarks, and they were just magnificent, and I wanted to put them on tape so that A, we could share them, but B, you could have this and carry around with you. And in case any of you have not realized this by now, that M is my oldest granddaughter, and she's one of 4 granddaughters who are all very wonderful and special in their own right, and 1 super grandson. So with this in mind, I hope you all enjoyed the show. Thank you so much for watching, and take care, and I'll see you all next month. What was the food like? Because I know you're kind of a chow hound.
You not put that in the thing. Graham, please
No. And of course, she's one of, how many grandchildren do I have? Oh, I have 4 grandchildren. 4, yeah, 5? Oh, jeez. Let me take this back. 4. I have 4 girls?
You have 4 girls and 1 boy.
God, I thought I had 4. Okay. Let me take that back.